Yeah, okay, sounds good. Yeah. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Mashfiq Rizvee, and I am a graduate research assistant here at US. This is my second semester here at KU as a PhD student at Department of ECS. So upon joining KU, I've been doing a lot of projects, a lot of interesting projects. From those, I chose this project to present it here today. So my project is titled Hierarchical for Scalable Authentication and Tracking of ICs. In this research, we have proposed a novel data structure that can be used to trace electronic chips throughout the cycle of the supply chain. Okay, so what do we mean by tracing or tracking ICs? So we mean that by authenticate, what we mean by tracing is that we are trying to authenticate an IC. And authentication means whatever IC I have on my hands as a customer. I'm not sure if this is the screen that I'm sharing. It's on Zoom.
I see it here on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
It's the presenter view.
Oh, yeah, that is why I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Should I change it?
want to share?
Screen one. Yes. The correct one.
It'd be. Yes, that's just the slides now.
Okay. But it's not working here. So this is not staying that. Fine. Seems like that. But I can't change that.
Also the Zoom slide, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, now it's changing.
Might just be delayed.
okay. So by tracking ICs, we know that we're trying to authenticate an IC. And by authenticating, it means that we are trying to see if the IC I have on my hands as a customer, if has gone through every entity of the supply chain that it has been went. So a naive way to do this can be it can be at each point of the supply chain entity. We want to check if the IC exists in that entity. And in that way, we can be sure that this is the correct IC that we have on our hands. So then again, since there is an issue of the security of ICs in the supply chain, because it is possible that a counterfeit IC can enter the supply chain at any point of the cycle, we want a bit more complicated identification tags. So instead of relying on handwritten tags or printed tags, we are doing our experiment with physical unclonable functions. Now, coming back to the supply chain, if we consider a company, for example, Intel has produced ICs, and the ICs are circulating the supply chain, visiting each entity. Here, each of the entity is trying to enroll the records of the ICs in a traditional database. So according to us, this is not a very good idea because a traditional database is usually not very secure. So one solution that we're eager to propose is we want to organize and secure the data responses or of responses in a better way. So there has been a lot of works. Instead of using traditional databases, there has been ongoing research on securing the supply chain data using established state-of-the-art frameworks, such as the blockchains and the. So, but the problem is that these data structures cannot ensure to give you better storage efficiency and query efficiency. So, for example, in the blockchain, in order to store something, a block is created in a linear time, plus it has a lot of other operations, such as voting. So it takes a lot of time. But then again, the blockchains are secured because every value that is entered, that is an input to the blockchain is hashed. So that is secure. But what if the data we are trying to query is noisy? So this is just an FYI that the blockchain won't be able to consider the noisy data as they won't be able to authenticate it, the noisy data. So we have tried to propose a solution to this. We proposed a database system within the electronic supply chain that is named persistent hierarchical Bloom filter. And it helps us solving the issues of higher storage and query efficiency and lack of security. So it improves all of them together at one time. So this is one kind of a robust solution we are proposing. So this is the proposed framework. It is like a binary decomposition of temporal set of pairs or a time range with respect to its dimension. And on each of the triangles that you're seeing is a hierarchical Bloom filter, which is where we are storing our unique buff IDs. So these are the small units. These are actually the hierarchical Bloom filters, which is the fundamental part of our structure. So when inserting an element, for example, X, if we consider X as our buff responses, we are storing the buff responses in these small triangles. And the timestamps are the corresponding values that are in range, are the timestamps where a buff response enters our database. So we use depth first search over the binary decomposition tree to find a path from the root to the leaf containing T in the time, and insert the buff responses to every hierarchical Bloom filter along the path. And in order to query, we use a DFS to find the canonical cover or the binary decomposition of the time range, and query each of the hierarchical Bloom filter, corresponding hierarchical Bloom filters in these intervals. If we get an answer yes, only if at least one hierarchical Bloom filter returns a yes, we consider it to be found. So this is a structure of the hierarchical Bloom filter, which is the main element of our tree structure. The advantage of using HBF is that, or hierarchical Bloom filter, is that it allows for efficient handling of large sets of data while still maintaining a high level of accuracy. So the HBF structure is the one that is responsible for giving our data structure the noise tolerant property. So HBF is a noise tolerant because it allows for false positives at higher levels of the hierarchy without affecting the accuracy of the lower levels. So the more you go down, the more the possibility of noisy data getting authenticated. So coming back to my supply chain perspective, this is a schematic of supply chain where the manufacturer is at Kansas City and the supply chain expands up to Philadelphia, passing through every entity of its supply chain cycle. So as I mentioned earlier, every entity is maintaining a database like in a traditional supply chain. But instead of the traditional databases, we are using our PHPF. So the entities that are maintaining the PHBFs are connected to a secured centralized server, which constantly updates the ICs that are on their entry so that anyone can have access to the records. Okay, now comes the results section. So in this section, we measured the performance of our system in two divisions. The first type is the authentication performance. This is measured to know how our framework is identifying the puff responses of the ICs. This way, we know the rate of authentication, even when there are noises in the query data. The second type is where we measure the scalability of our framework. Like when we try to increase the input parameters to a greater value, in a greater value, we try to know if our system is performing well on system. So now comes the authentication performance. So we measured up authentication performance using the receiver operating curves. This actually shows that if we can tune the parameters of our framework properly, it is possible to achieve 100% authentication rate, even when we have the query sets that has noise incorporated. So these graphs actually show that the FAR and FRR rate is 0 when we set the threshold to the hierarchical Bloom filter to in 5 in every case. So each of these experiments is done on different query sets that are generated naturally with a ring oscillator based puff in 100 degrees and 75 degrees respectively. And for the below ones, the C and D that you're seeing are the results for the noise that are generated synthetically. Now comes the scalability performance. So this is what we found when we did our complexity analysis on our data structure. So we compared our system, which is actually the proposed PHBF that's on the left, second column of the table. This is, I know may not be super, maybe it may not be super comprehensible at first sight. That is why I have the next slide. Oh, sorry. So this one. So we ran some simulations on different data structures, including the one that we are proposing. The output shows the results in terms of storage, that is on the upper row, and the query time efficiency, that is on the lower row. The one that is in orange shows the depth, which is this one. Performance in terms of storage and query efficiency. So in all the cases, in terms of scalability, when we try to increase our inputs, it shows that in every case, our data structure in terms of storage, it's taking less storage, and in terms of query search, it's taking less time. So that's it. Thank you. Yeah, if you have any questions.
Can you please go to the slide that constitutes the hierarchical Bloom filter with the noisy data?
This one?
No, not this one. Just go up. This.
Noise.
It's not showing in the monitor.
Oh, okay. I think it's not synced.
Yeah, this one.
This one?
Yeah. So, I mean, so how the noisy data is, getting reduced in the lower levels, like level 0, level 1?
Okay. So we are actually, so when consider a string, and we are trying to store the string, for example, on the level 0, we're trying to store the whole string in a single block of Bloom filtering. And after that, as the levels increase, we are trying to divide the string and store it in different blocks of Bloom filters. So we set a threshold that if this much number of percentage of string matches our the Bloom filter blocks, we consider it going hidden. That's how the noise gets. So this is how the noise is tolerated.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So, very interesting work. And I noticed you did some performance analysis on this, of this Bloom filter. I was wondering if you had done any kind of security analysis, especially for the protocol between each entity in the web server.
So security analysis is something that is part of our future work.
Okay.
So, but one thing I can say is that whenever we enter, like in blockchains, we hash the values and one thing I can say on Bloom filters is we also hash the values when we input into the Bloom filters as well. So just the hierarchical Bloom filter just gives the noise tolerant property, but the values are hashed. So and the hash is non-reversible.
I have a follow-up question, like which hash algorithm you used in your
The
experiment?
SHA 256.
256.
I have a question. So, say that someone is trying to do overproduction, right? Or maybe any specific type of counterfeit that you address. So, how does this prevent them from doing the counterfeit?
Okay, so we have set a few questions proposed a few set of questions on our paper. And for example, if we want to know if for example theft counterfeit, if IC is missing from our database or not. So if we want to know if the IC is missing from our database or not. So if we go to that every particular location, we try to query in our database, and if none of it is found, if even one of them we can find it, we consider it a theft counterfeit.
So, what are the different types of counterfeit it can address?
As far as I remember, it can address like theft counterfeit, overproduced clones. I think we marked counterfeit.